What if Bible secrets to wealth aren't hidden at all? What if they're patterns anyone can practice starting today? Are you ready to live them? I did not stumble into abundance. I was trained by timeless principles. Before provision shows up in your hand, it must be alive in your heart. I wrote a picture of my future in present tense, what I would build, who would bless, and how it would feel to wake up inside it. Each morning, I aligned my thoughts, words, and actions with that picture. When opportunities appeared, I recognized them because I had already seen them. Vision set my yeses and my nos. It told me which ideas to nurture and which distractions to ignore. If you're vague about tomorrow, your feet will be confused today. Clarify where you're going, and watch resources begin to organize around that clarity. Vision precedes provision, and this is the first secret that shifted my entire life from lack to overflow. Most people wait for the evidence of abundance before they dare to believe in it, but the truth is the opposite. You must see it before you can hold it. Wealth begins as an inner image, not as a number in a bank account. When I was at my lowest point financially, I realized that my thoughts were rehearsing poverty. I was waking up thinking about bills, worrying about shortages, and speaking words of limitation. My outer world was only a mirror of that inner picture. The moment I understood this, I knew I had to reframe my vision. I began to deliberately see myself as someone who created value, as someone trusted with wealth, as someone capable of stewarding abundance. Every morning, I took time to close my eyes and live inside the future I desired until it became more real in my spirit than the struggles around me. Vision works like a compass. Without it, you walk in circles, chasing quick money schemes, changing plans every month, and exhausting yourself in directions that never align. But once your vision is clear, you start noticing doors you used to overlook. Opportunities don't just appear randomly. They were always there, but your eyes weren't trained to recognize them. It's like tuning a radio. Once you adjust to the right frequency, the signal is suddenly clear. When you set your inner picture, you align your decisions, your focus, and your energy with what you have already claimed in faith. And slowly, reality begins to shift to match what you consistently carry in your heart. This is why so many people sabotage themselves. They keep asking for wealth, but inside they still see themselves as broke, unworthy, or stuck. You cannot build abundance on a vision of lack. Provision will never consistently flow to someone whose identity rejects it. I had to stop rehearsing failure in my imagination. Instead of thinking about debts, I started imagining the joy of paying them off. Instead of seeing myself barely surviving, I saw myself building businesses that solved problems and created jobs. That inner shift created a confidence that changed how I spoke to people, how I carried myself, and how I approached opportunities. People don't invest in your idea first, they invest in your clarity and conviction. When they sense you are carrying a strong vision, they want to align with it. Vision is also what gives you endurance. The journey to wealth is not a straight road. It is full of setbacks, delays, and trials. If you only see what's in front of you, you'll quit when the ground looks dry. If you carry a picture of the harvest, you'll keep sowing even when nothing seems to sprout. There were many moments I wanted to give up, but the vision anchored me. It reminded me that temporary struggle was only part of the story. With vision, you can turn rejection into redirection and setbacks into stepping stones. The truth is, you will never rise above the picture you carry of yourself. If you want millions, but you still see yourself as someone undeserving, you'll unconsciously push away every opportunity to grow. But if you train your inner eyes to see abundance as natural, then provision begins to find its way to you. I became a multimillionaire the day I committed to living by vision, not by circumstances. From that day on, provision had no choice but to follow. Stewardship multiplies, and this truth is what separates those who keep wealth from those who only taste it for a season. Many believe that increase comes only through sudden miracles or lucky breaks, but the lasting secret is how you handle what is already in your hands. If you treat the little as unworthy, you are silently declaring to life that you cannot be trusted with more. But if you honor the small with care, diligence, and excellence, you open the gates for abundance to flow into your life. My journey shifted when I realized that wealth is not an event, it is a trust. Every resource I had, whether money, time, or skill, was a seed given to me. And how I managed to determine the harvest I would see. When I had only a small income, I trained myself to handle it as if I were already overseeing millions. I built the habit of tracking every expense, questioning every purchase, and asking myself whether this choice built freedom or chained me further. I learned to live below my means, not as a punishment, but as a discipline to create margin for growth. Most people wait until they have more to begin saving or investing, but the truth is that habits scale with you. If you cannot set aside 10% when you earn little, you will not suddenly find the discipline to do it when you earn 10 times more. The muscles of stewardship are built in the small things. Stewardship is not just about money, it is about the mindset of responsibility. I sharpened my skills, knowing that every new ability increased my value in the marketplace. I treated opportunities with respect, even if they seemed minor. I showed up on time, delivered more than expected, and left people better than I found them. Each of those choices became seeds that later multiplied into partnerships, referrals, and unexpected open doors. Stewardship taught me that how you do anything is how you do everything. If you are sloppy with what seems insignificant, you are training yourself to mishandle significance when it arrives. Another dimension of stewardship is order. Wealth cannot flow freely into chaos. I learned to organize my finances, structure my business, and systemize my time. I created clear budgets, tracked income and expenses, and set measurable goals. I stopped guessing and started measuring. Because what you measure grows. Even my environment reflected stewardship. I decluttered my workspace, set routines that honor my body and mind, and made sure that what surrounded me spoke of discipline, not disorder. This order created clarity, and clarity invited opportunities. People want to partner with those who seem reliable, and reliability is born of stewardship. There were seasons when I was tempted to take shortcuts to chase quick money instead of building wisely. But I reminded myself that ill-gotten wealth fades, while properly managed wealth compounds. By reinvesting, saving strategically, and patiently growing, I built foundations that could weather storms. I saw others who won big contracts or sudden windfalls lose it all in a short time because they had no systems, no discipline, no stewardship. Increase without stewardship becomes a curse. It magnifies carelessness and accelerates collapse. Stewardship also taught me gratitude. By appreciating and properly using what I had, I sent a signal that I valued it. Gratitude attracts multiplication because it shows that you recognize the source of your increase. I treated every dollar, every client, every opportunity as a trust that deserved my best. Over time, this posture positioned me for greater resources. When people saw how I handled small responsibilities, they felt safe giving me bigger ones. Becoming a multimillionaire was not about chasing money, it was about mastering stewardship. I learned to respect the little, to multiply it with diligence, and to treat every resource as a gift to be managed wisely. That is why increase kept coming. Wealth responds to order, to discipline, to responsibility. If you want more, begin where you are. Handle today with excellence, and tomorrow will reward you with multiplication. Sowing value to reap increase is one of the greatest secrets to wealth. And it is the very principle that turned my financial life around. Too often people chase after money, forgetting that money is never the root. It is only the fruit. The real root is value. Money simply flows as a response to the problems you solve, the service you render, or the impact you create. When I finally stopped asking, how can I make more money? And instead asked, how can I plant more seeds of value in the lives of others? Everything began to shift. The secret is simple. If you want to harvest, you must first plant. No farmer goes into the field waiting for crops to grow without sowing seed, yet so many people wait for increase without planting anything. I began by looking at the skills and resources already in my hand. Instead of despising them, I asked, how can I use these to help someone else? At first, the seeds seemed small, serving a client beyond expectations, sharing knowledge freely, solving problems for free that others ignored. I didn't see immediate returns, but I understood that seeds don't sprout overnight. They need time, watering, and consistent care. That truth kept me faithful even when the harvest wasn't visible yet. I kept sowing, writing, teaching, building, offering solutions, until eventually those seeds started to return to me in multiplied form. What began as one small opportunity turned into recurring contracts, partnerships, and scalable systems that continue to produce even when I wasn't actively working. The power of sowing value lies in consistency. A farmer doesn't stop sowing because yesterday's seeds haven't sprouted. He keeps planting because he knows the harvest will come in due season. In the same way, I committed to daily actions that created value, 3 meaningful outreaches, 1 piece of content that would outlast me, 1 system that improved my work. I didn't wait for inspiration. I treated sowing as a discipline. Some seeds failed, some were ignored, but others found fertile ground. Over time, the small acts compounded into large impact. Another lesson I learned was that the size of your harvest depends on the scale of your seeds. If your value only impacts a handful of people, your harvest will be limited. But if your value can reach hundreds, thousands, or even millions, your harvest expands accordingly. That is why I built products and services that could scale beyond my personal effort. Books, courses, automated services, and teams who could deliver solutions on a larger scale. I asked myself constantly, how can I solve problems not just for one, but for many? That shift multiplied my influence and, in turn, my income. Sowing value also requires patience and faith. There were times when I poured effort into projects that seemed to vanish into nothing. Yet, months or years later, someone would show up saying, what you shared changed my life, or that solution saved my business. Suddenly, that old seed returned as a new opportunity. This taught me never to underestimate the hidden power of a seed. You never know when or how it will come back to you, but it always does in one form or another. Most importantly, sowing value kept me focused on service rather than selfishness. When you chase money, you often become desperate, cutting corners or manipulating people. But when you focus on sowing value, money chases you. People are drawn to those who genuinely care, who solve problems with excellence, and who deliver more than they promised. That reputation becomes a harvest in itself. Becoming wealthy was not about chasing profits, it was about sowing seeds. Every product, every word, every act of service was a seed planted into the soil of humanity, and because I never stopped sowing, I never stopped reaping. If you want increase, stop looking at what you lack and start planting what you already carry. The harvest is guaranteed for those who keep sowing. Covenant integrity attracts favor, and this principle became the unshakable foundation of my wealth journey. Wealth is not just about numbers or assets, it is about trust. People, opportunities, and even unseen forces respond to integrity. When I speak of covenant integrity, I mean a deeper level of commitment to truth, honor, and faithfulness, not just when others are watching, but especially when no one is. Many people can achieve temporary success through shortcuts, manipulation, or deception, but those gains are fragile. They crumble under the weight of mistrust. Lasting wealth and influence require a character strong enough to carry them. In my early years of building, I noticed something: doors didn't open simply because I was talented or hardworking. They opened because someone trusted me. Investors, partners, and clients all asked themselves one unspoken question before aligning with me: can this person be trusted with more? I realized that integrity was not optional, it was currency. Every time I kept my word, delivered on a promise, or chose honesty, even when it cost me, I was depositing into an invisible account of credibility. That credibility later became the reason people referred me, invested in me, and gave me bigger opportunities. Favor follows the one whose character is consistent. There were moments when the temptation to compromise came strong, a deal that looked lucrative but required bending the truth. An opportunity to make fast money if I ignored certain principles. Every time I face such moments, I ask myself, what kind of name do I want to build? What will people say about me when I am not in the room? Choosing integrity often felt like loss in the short term. I walked away from deals, declined partnerships, and said no to money that didn't align with my values. At the time, it was painful, but later, those very decisions became the reason my name carried weight. People began to say, if he's involved, it's safe. That reputation attracted favor I could never have purchased. Integrity is not only about keeping contracts with others, it is also about keeping covenant with yourself and with the source of your life. I made commitments to myself to always honor my word, to always deliver value, to never exploit others for personal gain, and to give back as I increased. These self-made covenants became guiding principles that shaped every choice. The amazing thing is that once I aligned with these values, life seemed to align with me. Right doors opened, right people showed up, and right timing unfolded. Favor is not random, it flows toward those who live in truth. I also discovered that integrity simplifies life. When you live in deception, you must constantly remember your lies, manipulate appearances, and cover your tracks. But when you live in truth, your path is straight. You walk lighter, freer, and clearer. That clarity allowed me to focus on building systems, serving people, and expanding wealth, rather than wasting energy on cover-ups. Integrity doesn't slow you down, it accelerates you because you are not dragging the weight of hidden guilt. Over time, I saw that covenant integrity was a magnet for lasting relationships. Clients returned year after year. Partners trusted me with greater responsibilities. Teams were motivated to give their best because they saw consistency in leadership. Even when I made mistakes, integrity allowed me to admit them quickly, correct them openly, and rebuild stronger. People don't expect perfection, but they do expect honesty, and honesty builds a bridge of favor that money alone cannot create. Becoming a multimillionaire was not just about smart investments or brilliant ideas, it was about cultivating a reputation of trust. Integrity was the soil in which all my seeds of effort could grow without being choked. Wealth without integrity is fragile, but wealth built on covenant truth attracts endless favor. If you want abundance that lasts, let your word be stronger than contracts and your character louder than your marketing. Integrity may seem costly at first, but it pays the highest dividends in the end. Multiplication through systems and partnerships is the turning point where wealth shifts from being dependent on your personal effort to becoming an engine that grows beyond you. In the beginning, I tried to do everything myself. I worked tirelessly, thinking that my hard work alone would guarantee increase. But I soon discovered that personal effort has limits. There are only so many hours in a day and only so much energy one person can expend. True wealth comes when you break free from the trap of working in your business and start building a business or system that can function, grow, and multiply with or without you. The principle is clear. Whatever you build must outlive your energy. A farmer doesn't harvest by hand every single seed. He builds tools, systems, and processes that allow him to reap fields instead of single plants. I realized that if I wanted to create abundance, I had to think like a builder of systems. That meant documenting processes, automating repetitive tasks, and designing structures that could be replicated. Instead of being the only one who knew how to do things, I trained others, delegated responsibility, and created clear standards of excellence. Suddenly, my income no longer rose and fell with my personal involvement. It began to grow on its own momentum. Partnerships are the second force of multiplication. I used to fear bringing others in, worried they would dilute my vision or take more than they gave, but I discovered that the right partnerships don't subtract, they multiply. When you align with people who share your values, your vision expands faster than you ever imagined. One person has limited skills, limited time, and limited perspectives, but when you join forces with others, you create synergy. 1 + 1 doesn't equal 2. It can equal 10 or 100. I sought out partners whose strengths balanced my weaknesses, who brought resources, insights, or access I didn't have, and who shared the same commitment to integrity. Together, we built ventures that none of us could have created alone. Systems and partnerships also protect you from burnout. Before, I was caught in the cycle of working harder just to maintain growth. But when systems began running and teams took ownership, I was free to think bigger, to innovate, and to strategize. That freedom allowed me to spot new opportunities, enter new markets, and scale existing projects. Instead of being chained to the day-to-day grind, I became the architect of expansion. Systems became my freedom, and partnerships became my leverage. Another lesson I learned was that systems are not just mechanical, they are also relational. How you treat people, employees, clients, and partners creates systems of loyalty, referrals, and goodwill. I built systems of communication, systems of recognition, and systems of reward. These kept people engaged and motivated, ensuring that the entire structure was fueled by trust and purpose. This human element is as important as any technology or process. A system without heart eventually breaks down, but a system built on shared values keeps multiplying. Multiplication through systems and partnerships also creates resilience. When challenges hit, economic downturns, market changes, or unexpected crises, the system carries you. If one part struggles, another part compensates. If one partner faces difficulty, the others help stabilize the vision. I no longer feared setbacks because I was no longer standing alone. My wealth wasn't fragile. It was reinforced by networks, teams, and automated flows that kept resources moving. Becoming a multimillionaire required me to stop thinking like a laborer and start thinking like a builder. The secret was not to do more, but to build systems that did more for me. The secret was not to walk alone, but to walk with partners who multiplied my impact. If you want to step into lasting wealth, ask yourself, what systems can I build today that will keep producing tomorrow? Who can I align with who multiplies my vision rather than shrinking it? Once you answer those questions and act on them, you unlock a level of abundance that personal effort alone could never achieve. Generosity keeps the river flowing, and this is the final secret that completed the cycle of wealth in my life. I discovered that money, like water, is meant to move. When you hold it too tightly, it stagnates, loses its freshness, and eventually slips away. But when you allow it to flow outward with intention, it keeps returning, often in greater measure than you released. At first, this seemed counterintuitive. How could giving away what I had bring more back to me? But when I lived it, I saw with my own eyes that generosity is not subtraction, it is multiplication. Every act of giving became a seed, and every seed produced a harvest, sometimes from places I least expected. I remember times when giving felt illogical, my resources were limited, and I thought the sensible thing was to hoard and protect. But every time I gave, whether it was time, knowledge, money, or even encouragement, I noticed doors opening that had been closed before. Clients came out of nowhere, partnerships formed unexpectedly, ideas sparked in my mind that later became income streams. Generosity did something inside of me. It broke the fear of not having enough. As long as fear of lack controls you, you will never take bold steps. But when you give freely, you prove to yourself that you live under abundance, not scarcity. Generosity also shifts your focus. Instead of asking, what can I get? You begin to ask, how can I add? That change attracts people, because the world is full of takers, but rare are those who give without demanding first. When people sense that your goal is to enrich their lives, they want to connect, to work with you, and to support your vision. In my business, generosity became my brand. I gave more value than expected, shared insights freely, and treated clients as partners instead of transactions. That generosity created loyalty, referrals, and favor that marketing dollars could never buy. I also learned that generosity is not about the size of the gift, but the spirit behind it. Sometimes I gave when it was uncomfortable, when it felt like I had little left. Other times I gave in ways that seemed small, like sharing wisdom or mentoring someone starting out. Both mattered because generosity is not measured by the number, it is measured by the heart. When you give with a pure motive, you release a ripple that grows beyond your control. I saw people I had helped years before return with opportunities, contracts, or introductions that lifted me higher. The river always found its way back. Generosity keeps you humble. When wealth began to multiply in my life, it would have been easy to become self-centered, to think it was all about me, but giving reminded me that I was a steward, not an owner. The resources passing through my hands were not just for me, they were for impact. I began to view wealth as a tool to heal, to build, to empower, to bless. That perspective protected me from greed and kept me aligned with the greater purpose of abundance. And here's the mystery: the more I gave, the more creative I became. Ideas flowed, energy increased, and new ventures emerged. Generosity opened me up to receive, not just financially, but in wisdom, vision, and relationships. It was as if the act of releasing created space for fresh supply to enter. I discovered that holding tightly closes your hands, but giving opens them, and open hands are positioned to receive again. Becoming a multimillionaire did not come from clutching wealth, but from circulating it. The river never ran dry because I kept it flowing. That is the secret if you want abundance that lasts. Make generosity your lifestyle. Don't wait until you think you have enough. Start now, where you are. Give what you can, serve who you can, and release what you carry. The flow you create will return to you. Pressed down, multiplied, and overflowing. Wealth is not sustained by greed. It is sustained by generosity. The journey from scarcity to abundance was never just about money. It was about becoming the kind of person who could be trusted with it. Vision gave me the blueprint. Stewardship taught me discipline. Sowing value created harvests. Integrity built my name and attracted favor. Systems and partnerships multiplied my reach. And generosity kept the river of wealth flowing without end. Each principle was not a step I took once, but a lifestyle I chose daily. I stand here as living proof that these truths work. I did not start with millions. I started with little more than faith, discipline, and a willingness to align myself with timeless principles. Wealth was not an accident. It was the natural result of living by these laws. And if it worked for me, It can work for anyone who dares to believe and practice them. You see, wealth is never just about accumulation, it is about transformation. It changes who you become, how you serve, and what legacy you leave. The goal is not to chase money, but to embody the kind of life that money cannot help but follow. When you live with vision, when you steward faithfully, when you sow generously, when you walk in integrity, when you build systems bigger than yourself, and when you give freely, you align with the very flow of abundance. So I leave you with this challenge. Stop waiting for a breakthrough and start living these principles today. Write down your vision as if it were already true. Steward what is in your hand as if it were treasure. Plant seeds of value every single day, even when no one is watching. Guard your integrity like the crown jewel of your life. Build systems and seek partners who multiply your mission. And give generously, even when it stretches you, because giving keeps the river alive. If you do these things, wealth will not just visit you, it will dwell with you. Favor will surround you. Opportunities will find you. And you will look back one day, as I did, realizing that what once felt impossible has become your reality. The secrets are not hidden, they are waiting for you to live them. The same river that carried me into abundance is flowing for you too. Step into it with courage and let it carry you to your